The October wind blew the fallen leaves down the deserted alley of Oakwood Cemetery. Amelia stood at the fresh grave, clutching her father's worn leather briefcase tightly in her hands. The funeral procession had long since dispersed, leaving her alone with heavy thoughts and memories. Robert Hastings, her father, had built his art empire from the ground up. Every painting in his collection wasn't just an acquisition. Behind each one was a story, a lesson he sought to pass on to his daughter. Art teaches us to see the truth behind a beautiful facade, he liked to say. Aaron placed a hand on her shoulder, squeezing it slightly for support. We should get going, sweetheart. It's getting cold. He could hear the concern in his voice, but his eyes were already calculating something, roaming the horizon. That evening, loved ones gathered at their home on Heritage Hill. Elizabeth Pierce, a gallery owner and longtime friend of Amelia's, brought a bottle of red wine, Robert's favorite. Marcus Holder, the family's gray-haired lawyer, spread folders of documents on the table, occasionally adjusting his old-fashioned horn-rimmed glasses. Your father was a very thoughtful man. Marcus pulled an envelope containing the will from his briefcase. He left clear instructions regarding the collection and other assets. Amelia nodded, absent-mindedly running her finger over the rim of her glass. Her gaze stopped on the painting hanging over the fireplace, a work by a little-known artist depicting a storm at sea. Her father had bought it at one of the first auctions. We can put it off for another day, Elizabeth suggested, noticing her friend's pallor. No, Aaron pulled a chair closer to the table. Amelia needs a distraction. Plus, it's important to understand the disposition of the inheritance. Marcus unfolded the papers. Robert left you not only a collection, but also substantial assets. The total value of the assets exceeds $4 million. Aaron straightened, his fingers trembling faintly as he clutched the arm of his chair. There are certain conditions, Marcus continued. The collection must remain intact. Your father wanted it to serve an educational purpose. That can be discussed later, Aaron interjected. Right now, it's more important to sort out the liquid assets. I have some interesting investment ideas. Elizabeth frowned, casting a quick glance at Marcus. The lawyer slowly wiped his glasses with a handkerchief, as if buying time for a response. Actually, he began, Robert left a letter. He asked that it be read this very day. Taking a folded piece of paper from the envelope, Marcus coughed and began to read. My dear Amelia, if you are hearing these words, it means I can no longer protect you. But I can give you one last piece of advice. Don't rush into decisions. Every painting in my collection is a story about human nature. Learn to read those stories before you entrust your fate to others. Aaron grumbled, but quickly hid his displeasure behind a mask of participation. Typical collector's paranoia. I'm sorry, dear, but your father was always a little eccentric. Don't say that about him, Amelia said quietly. A heavy silence hung in the room. Perhaps we should continue this tomorrow, Elizabeth suggested again. No, Amelia straightened up. Father was fond of saying that art requires attention to detail. Let's take it all apart now. For the next 2 hours, they studied the documents. Marcus methodically explained each clause of the will, occasionally glancing at Aaron, who was growing increasingly impatient. As for the funds, Marcus pulled out the last folder. They're deposited in several banks. Access. I'll look into it, Aaron interrupted. I have a background in financial planning. Which led your consulting firm to bankruptcy, Elizabeth muttered under her breath. Aaron turned sharply toward her. It's been a bad year for the entire market. I think we all need a break, Marcus began to gather his papers. Amelia, you can stop by my office next week. There are details that need quiet discussion. After the guests left, Aaron poured himself a whiskey. His irritation was no longer hidden by a mask of involvement. Why procrastinate? We need to act quickly. I have a project that will make us a fortune. Software for the financial sector is a gold mine. Amelia walked to the window. The bare branches of an old oak tree swayed in the darkness of the garden. Father never made hasty decisions. Your father didn't live in an age of technological breakthroughs. Aaron came up behind her, putting his arm around her shoulders. Trust me, sweetheart. I know how to grow your inheritance. She could see his face in the reflection of the window, confident, handsome, with that special charisma that had once won her over. But now there was something new in his eyes that she hadn't noticed before. That night Amelia couldn't sleep for a long time. She went downstairs to her father's study and turned on the desk lamp. The light fell on the paintings, creating bizarre shadows. Opening the briefcase she'd kept at the cemetery, she pulled out an old leather-bound notebook. Her father's handwriting was sprawling but legible. Art is not an investment, it's a lesson. Each painting tells a story about how easy it is to be fooled by outward beauty and how hard it is to discern true value. Aaron's office was in a glass building on the edge of the Grand Rapids business district. Inexpensive rent, but a claim to respectability, a typical choice for a startup company. Amelia adjusted her pearl brooch, a 25th birthday present from her father, and pushed open the glass door with the newly affixed Bruno Tech Solutions sign. The workspace greeted her with a humming emptiness and the smell of fresh paint. 3 desks with brand-new computers, white walls not yet decorated with paintings or diplomas. The secretary's desk had a nameplate with the name Rachel Mortimer on it, but the desk itself was empty. "Honey, you're early." Aaron looked out of his office. He was wearing the new suit he'd bought last week. "I thought we agreed on 2 hours." "Thought I'd see how settling in was going." Amelia ran her finger across the empty desk. "Where are your employees?" "Rachel's out interviewing potential developers. I told you, we need the best minds for the project." He walked over to the coffee machine. "Coffee?" "No, thanks." Amelia stopped at the window. The view was of the parking lot and the backyard of the Chinese restaurant. "Tell me again about the project. I want to understand all the details." Aaron perked up. "It's a revolutionary system for the banking sector. Artificial intelligence, big data analysis, predicting customer behavior, all in one package." "And how long does it take to develop?" A year and a half at the most. I already have preliminary agreements with 3 banks. They're ready to test the beta version." Amelia pulled her father's notebook out of her purse. "I've been going over your business plan. $4 million is a lot of money." "Which will bring us 10 times as much." Aaron sat down on the edge of the table. "Look, I know you're hesitant, but this is our chance. Your father built his empire on art. I'll build ours on technology." Footsteps sounded in the reception area. A young woman in a strict suit stopped in the doorway upon seeing the visitor. "Ah, Rachel," Aaron waved his hand. "Meet my wife, Amelia." Rachel Mortimer smiled, showing off her flawless teeth. "Heard a lot about you. Aaron has told me a lot about your family. Mostly about my father's collection, I suppose." Amelia noted the expensive shoes on the secretary. "Too expensive for a budding career woman." "Oh, no, Rachel placed the folders on the desk. "About your work at the gallery, too. It's so exciting to be immersed in the art world." "How did the interviews go?" Aaron interrupted. "Great. 2 candidates are particularly promising. I've prepared resumes." Rachel held out the folder. Her fingers lingered on Aaron's hand for a second. "Excellent." He didn't even glance at the documents. "Amelia, let's go to my office. We need to discuss the details." The headmaster's office was impressive in size, but so far it was nearly empty. Only a massive mahogany desk, clearly not from a cheap furniture store, dominated the space. "Have a seat." Aaron pulled a folder from the desk drawer. "I've prepared all the paperwork. Just need your signature." "Signature? I thought we were going to discuss the details of the project." "Honey," he sat down next to her, took her hands in his. "I've calculated everything, every little detail, but we need to move fast. The market doesn't wait. But my father's collection will remain intact, he stroked her fingers. We only need the cash assets. 4 million is the perfect amount to start. Marcus advised us to take our time. Aaron grumbled. Marcus is a dinosaur. He doesn't understand modern technology. We live in a different world. There was a knock on the door. Rachel poked her head in. Excuse me, but the bank is calling. They say it's urgent. I apologize. Aaron stood up. Think it over calmly. I'll be right back. Left alone, Amelia opened the folder. Dry legal language, listing accounts, authorizing access to asset management. At the bottom, a space for a signature. Muffled conversation came from the reception area. Rachel's voice sounded too intimate for work communication. Amelia covered her eyes, remembering her father's words about attention to detail. When Aaron returned, she was still holding the papers in her hands. So, sweetheart, are you ready to trust me? She looked up at his smile, confident, enchanting, just like the day they'd first met 5 years ago. I want to consult with Marcus. Why? There was a flicker of irritation in his voice. This is our family business. I'm your husband. I have to take care of our future. That's exactly why I want to think it over carefully. Aaron stepped back to the window. His shoulders tensed. You know what the most important thing in business is? The moment. If you miss it, you lose everything. I already have preliminary agreements with investors. They're just waiting for confirmation of our financial capabilities. Give me a week. 3 days, he turned around. That's the maximum I can afford. Otherwise, we risk losing our market advantage. In the evening, Amelia sat in her father's study for a long time, going through papers, reading old records. In one of the drawers, she found a folder of newspaper clippings, the story of the financial collapse of Aaron's first company. Bankruptcy, layoffs, lawsuits. The phone rang. Elizabeth's number. How'd the meeting go? He wants me to sign the papers in 3 days. A pause. And what did you decide? I don't know. He says he's miscalculated everything, but... Listen, her friend's voice became serious. I've known Aaron for 5 years. One thing he's good at is creating illusions, especially to himself. You never liked him, because he saw things you refused to notice. After the conversation, Amelia went up to the gallery on the 2nd floor. Here her father's favorite paintings hung. He called this place the School of Life. Every stroke is a choice of the artist, he used to say. Each choice determines the fate of the painting. And life. Her gaze stopped on a small canvas in a simple frame, a woman at a window reading a letter. Her face is calm, but her fingers crumple the edge of the paper. Sometimes the most important details are hidden in the periphery, her father liked to say. In the morning, she called Marcus. I need counseling, informally. Come over at 2 o'clock and bring the documents Aaron gave you. The lawyer's office was in an old building downtown. Solid doors, creaky hardwood floors, the smell of old books. Marcus met her in an office littered with cabinets of legal literature. I've been going through the papers. He took off his glasses. Aaron wants full control of the assets. He says it's necessary for business. For what business? Does he have a business plan, permits, technology patents? Amelia shook her head. Look. Marcus motioned a folder toward her. These are the statements for his previous company. He didn't go bankrupt because of the market. He went bankrupt because of his own incompetence. People change. Not that much, he sighed. Your father asked me to keep an eye on you. He foresaw something like this. What makes you so sure? Marcus pulled an envelope from the safe. Because he left another letter, for a special occasion. Bruno Tech Solutions' first year began with loud promises and aggressive hiring. The spacious office was filled with programmers, managers, and business analysts. Aaron personally selected each employee, conducting hours-long interviews. He was especially careful in forming the female part of the team, Amelia occasionally stopped by her husband's office, bringing documents she had forgotten at home or just to check on him. Each visit greeted her with new changes, designer furniture, original paintings on the walls, not from her father's collection, of course, but purchased with corporate money. Rachel Mortimer, no longer just a secretary but the director's personal assistant, always greeted her with a flawless smile. "Mr. Bruno is in a meeting," she'd say, without lifting her eyes from the monitor. "You can wait in his office." The wait dragged on for hours. Amelia looked at the pictures on the walls, Aaron shaking hands with important people, Aaron speaking at conferences, Aaron accepting some kind of award. His image of a successful businessman was becoming more and more polished. He would show up late at home, smelling of expensive cologne and other people's perfume. "Business meetings," he explained. "Networking is essential to business development." Amelia spent her evenings at her father's gallery. Elizabeth had helped her organize several successful exhibitions, but the joy of the work was fading. Something subtly changed in her life, as if reality was slowly fading, losing its colors. "You've lost weight," Elizabeth remarked, pouring wine after the close of another exhibition. "And you look tired." "Lots of work." Amelia twirled her glass in her hands. "Aaron says the company is on the verge of a breakthrough. The first sales will start soon." "And what do the financial reports say?" "Yeah, I haven't seen them. Aaron handles all the business himself." Elizabeth pressed her lips together but remained silent. That evening, upon returning home, Amelia found an envelope from the bank on the table. The bank statement showed a precipitous decrease in funds. Large sums had gone to operating expenses and market research. "That's normal," Aaron brushed it off as she showed him the documents. "All startups go through a period of active spending. It's called burning money." But $4 million almost turned into a working product already. He put his arm around her shoulders. "Trust me, sweetheart. I know what I'm doing." In the spring, the office added a new employee, James Porter, an artificial intelligence specialist. He'd been hired for a fabulous amount of money, given a separate office next to the director's office. "He's a genius," Aaron enthused over dinner. "With his algorithms, we're going to revolutionize the market." "Can I see those algorithms?" Aaron choked on his wine. "Why?" "You wouldn't understand anything about programming anyway." "I could ask a programmer I know." "No." He stood up abruptly from the table. "This is a trade secret. No outsiders are to see the code." After that conversation, Aaron started showing up at home even less often. Business meetings dragged on late into the night. Business trips followed one after another. He kept his cell phone with him at all times, password protecting all applications. One evening, Amelia happened to notice a message flashing on his phone screen. "Tonight at 9, our place. Miss you. R." He hurriedly tucked the phone into his pocket without even looking at his wife. A week later, she decided to talk to James Porter. She waited until Aaron left for another meeting and went up to the company floor. "Mr. Porter quit 2 weeks ago," Rachel informed him, not even trying to hide a smug smile. "Didn't Mr. Bruno tell you?" That evening, she found the termination papers in her husband's office. James Porter had quit, accusing the company of fraud and no real product. Attached to the statement was a letter to the Securities Commission. "That's a brazen lie," shouted Aaron when she showed him the documents. "He's trying to blackmail us. We're going to sue him." "But where's the product, Aaron? Where's the promised technology?" "Don't you believe me?" He grabbed her by the shoulders. "You don't believe your husband." He smelled of alcohol and a familiar perfume, the same one Rachel used. Amelia didn't sleep that night. She sat in the gallery looking at her father's paintings, remembering what he'd said about attention to detail, about the importance of seeing the truth behind a beautiful facade. In the morning, she called Marcus. I need help, her voice shook. I think I've made a terrible mistake. Come over, the lawyer replied briefly, and bring all the documents you can find. Marcus's office smelled of coffee and old books. He listened to her story in silence, looked over the papers, made a few notations in his notebook. The situation is serious, he finally said, but not hopeless. The main thing is to proceed with caution. What do you mean? Aaron isn't just spending the money. Marcus tapped his pen on the documents. He's moving it out through shell companies. Here, look. This market research is being done by a firm registered in the Cayman Islands. But why? Because we have no jurisdiction there, and there's no way to get the money back. The phone rang in the reception area. The receptionist said there was a visitor. It's James Porter. Marcus adjusted his glasses. I invited him in. I think you should hear his story. The programmer appeared to be a young man with tired eyes and nervous movements. He spoke softly, pausing often, picking his words. There is no artificial intelligence. His fingers were rubbing the pen. Only presentations and pretty promises. When I realized what was going on, I tried to talk to Mr. Bruno. He offered me a stake in the company for my silence. And you refused. I have principles, James chuckled bitterly, and a reputation in the industry. And Rachel? Amelia asked quietly. What do you know about her? Miss Mortimer? He wrinkled his nose. She's Mr. Bruno's right-hand woman, in every way. That evening, back home, Amelia stood in front of the bedroom mirror for a long time, staring at her reflection, trying to figure out exactly when she'd started turning a blind eye to the obvious. Aaron's phone popped up with a message. I'm running late. Important meeting with investors. She opened her laptop, logged into his email account. He hadn't changed his password since the honeymoon. Emails, meetings, documents, and pictures. Lots of pictures. Aaron and Rachel at a restaurant, at the hotel, at the beach. The last email was sent an hour ago. Honey, I booked us a room for the weekend. Will you tell her about the business trip? April rain turned the streets of Grand Rapids into mirrors reflecting neon signs and car headlights. Amelia parked the car 2 blocks from the Golden Lotus restaurant, Aaron's favorite business meeting place. Raindrops pounded on the roof of the car, creating a monotonous rhythm as she pored over the photos she'd printed from her husband's mail. The pictures were adding up to a story 6 months long. Business trips, conferences, business dinners. Each of Aaron's absences now took on new meaning. In some of the photos, he and Rachel looked almost like a married couple. Walks on the beach together, dinners at restaurants, even Christmas vacations in the mountains, the same days he'd told her he was flying to Seattle for important negotiations. The front door of the restaurant opened, letting a familiar couple out onto the street. Rachel walked a little ahead, her heels clacking on the wet pavement. Aaron held an umbrella over her, leaning closer than necessary. They turned toward the Regency Hotel. 4 stars, expensive enough for a casual office romance. Amelia pulled out her phone, opened the banking app. Another $200,000 had disappeared from their joint account in the last month. Development investments, Aaron explained. Now she understood where that money was actually going. In the glove compartment was an envelope from Marcus, the results of a financial investigation. The scheme was banally simple. Shell companies, bogus contracts, inflated estimates. Classic fraud disguised as an ambitious tech startup. My phone vibrated. A message from Elizabeth. Where are you? I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Busy. I'll call you back later. It's important. It's about Aaron. Amelia paused, then started the car. 20 minutes later, she was entering the empty gallery. Elizabeth was waiting for her in her office, nervously thumbing through some papers. I'm sorry to drag you out, her friend looked worried, but there's something I need to show you. A folder of documents lay on the table. A real estate purchase agreement, an apartment in an upscale neighborhood, registered in Rachel Mortimer's name. The down payment was $150,000. Where did you get this? Remember Tom? He works in real estate. Recognized your last name on the payment documents. Amelia slowly flipped through the pages. Aaron's signature was next to Rachel's. He was acting as guarantor of the deal. That's not all. Elizabeth pulled out another document. They've applied to incorporate a new company, just the two of them, without you. When? A week ago. Everything's ready to go. The accounts, the office, the contracts. They're just waiting for the moment. Silence hung in the gallery, broken only by the ticking of an antique clock, a gift from her father for the opening of her first exhibition. Amelia went to the window. The rain had intensified, turning the world behind the glass into a blurry watercolor. "What are you going to do?" Elizabeth asked quietly. "What my father taught me." Amelia ran her finger along the glass as if drawing an invisible line. "To look at the details." Returning home at midnight, she found Aaron in the study. He was sitting at his computer, quickly closing some windows when she appeared. "Where have you been?" There was annoyance in his voice. "I called." "You did?" She leaned against the door jamb. "And I thought you had an important investor meeting." "It ended early," he stretched, yawning defiantly. "Tired like hell. Shall we go to bed?" "Sure. Just explain one thing to me first." She placed the pictures on the table. "Why is our money going to your mistress's apartment?" Aaron stiffened. His face contorted for a moment, but he quickly pulled himself together. "What nonsense! What pictures? What apartment?" "Don't bother." She pulled out her phone, opened the mail. "I know everything. About you and Rachel. About the new company. About the stolen money." "Stolen?" He stood up abruptly. "It's my money. I earned it." "Earned it?" Amelia grinned bitterly. "By what? With false promises? Non-existent technology? You don't understand anything about business." He took a step toward her. "Everyone does it. It's called startup culture." "No, Aaron. It's called fraud." He froze, his eyes narrowing. "Who's helping you? Marcus? That old schemer has been trying to break us up for a long time. Marcus just showed me the truth, the one I refused to see." "The truth?" Aaron laughed. "You want to know the truth? You were a convenient attachment to your father's money. You think I'd marry such a boring, proper girl for nothing?" The words hit harder than she'd expected, but outwardly she remained calm. "And that's why you decided to steal my inheritance?" "Steal?" He laughed again. "I invested it. In myself, in my future, in something you'll never be able to give me." "In an apartment for a mistress?" "At least Rachel understands me." He turned away to the window. "Supports my ambitions, not sitting around all day going over old paintings and reminiscing about Daddy." Amelia silently pulled a folder of papers from her bag. "I'm filing a police report tomorrow. Financial fraud, forgery of documents, misappropriation of funds. The list is impressive." "You're bluffing." But there was uncertainty in his voice. "Check it out." She put the folder on the table. "You can show it to your lawyers. They'll have an interesting night." "You wouldn't dare." He stepped toward her. "I will destroy you." "With what? With what you've already stolen, or what you were about to steal?" There was a heavy pause. Outside the window, the rain continued to rumble, blurring the city lights. "What do you want?" he finally asked. "A divorce. And the return of all assets." "Impossible. The money's already invested in the business." "Jail, then," she shrugged. "The choice is yours." He looked at her with a long stare, as if seeing her for the first time. "You've changed." "No, Aaron. I've just learned to see the truth." The next morning he disappeared. Took the papers from his office, his personal belongings, even the pictures of their wedding. All that was left on the desk was an envelope with a note. "You wanted this for yourself." Rachel didn't show up at the office either. Their phones were disconnected, emails blocked. Later, it turned out that they had managed to withdraw the last of the money from the company's accounts. Not much, but enough to escape. In the evening, Amelia sat in the empty house, looking at family photos. 5 years of life, 5 years of lies. The wine glass shook in her hand, leaving red drops on the white tablecloth. The phone rang, Marcus's number. "They've escaped," she said in lieu of a greeting. "I know." The lawyer's voice was unaccustomedly soft. "But it's not over." "What is?" "The beginning." He was silent. "Your father left something else behind. I think it's time to use it." The empty house seemed alien. Every object reminded her of a past life, a life that now seemed like an elaborately painted set. Amelia wandered through the rooms, picking up the shards of her shattered world. Shared photos, gifts, notes. In the bedroom, she found Aaron's forgotten tie, the same one she'd given him on their first anniversary. The police took the fraud report without enthusiasm. Detective Morrison, a full-bodied man with tired eyes, merely shrugged. "Family squabbles. You signed the papers yourself, Mrs. Bruno. Technically, it was a voluntary decision." Marcus tried to help, but the legal system moved slowly, bogged down in formalities and procedures. It turned out that most of the money had indeed disappeared, withdrawn through a chain of shell companies, dissolved in offshore accounts. "We can try to trace the movement of funds," the lawyer said, looking at bank statements. "But that would take time, and money, a lot of money." Elizabeth had offered to move her out. Her friend's huge apartment above the gallery seemed like a safe haven, but Amelia refused. She stayed in her empty house among her father's paintings, which now looked at her with mute reproach. She spent nights looking through old photographs, trying to find the moment when everything had gone wrong. Here was their first meeting. A vernissage at a gallery, Aaron smiling charmingly as he talked about his plans. Here's the wedding. She's in a white dress, happy and in love. Here's the first year together, traveling, restaurants, shared dreams. When did the lying start? From the first day? Or did it sprout gradually like poison ivy, braiding their relationship until it strangled everything alive? One morning she found an envelope on her doorstep, printouts of bank transactions. Anonymous well-wisher from the bank? Or one of the company's former employees? The numbers added up to a clear picture. For the past 2 months, Aaron had been methodically preparing to escape, transferring money to hidden accounts. Things were getting worse at the gallery. Customers who heard about the scandal with her husband's company canceled their orders. Suppliers were demanding payment in advance. The bank froze the credit line. "It's only temporary," Elizabeth reassured her. "We'll wait it out. Things will get better." But Amelia saw the truth in her friend's eyes. The art business is tough on losers. Reputations built over years can crumble in a day. Her mother called on Friday. News travels fast in a small town. "I always said he was no match for you." Her voice oozed smugness. "But you've always been so stubborn, like your father." Amelia listened silently, clutching the phone with whitened fingers. Her mother continued, "Why don't you come home? Your room is free. You can stay with us until things settle down." "No." She surprised herself at the firmness of her voice. "I can manage on my own." "Suit yourself," her mother sighed. "Just don't say later that I didn't offer to help." After this conversation, Amelia went down to the basement. This was where the paintings her father had deemed unsuitable for the main collection were kept. She turned on the light, and the dusty paintings came to life in the yellow glow of the lamp. One painting caught her eye, a dark canvas depicting a woman in front of a broken mirror. Her father had bought it at an auction in Europe, paying an unexpectedly high price for the work of an unknown artist. "Sometimes we see more truth in reflections than we'd like," he said then. Amelia brought the lamp closer, scrutinizing the details. The woman in the painting held a shard of mirror, and it reflected not her face, but something else, some document or letter. The ringing of the doorbell snapped her out of her reverie. An unfamiliar man in a strict suit stood on the threshold. "Mrs. Bruno, my name is Robert Chase, and I'm with the IRS. We're conducting an investigation into your husband's company." In the living room, he pulled out a file folder. "We have reason to believe that your husband has been evading taxes. We are talking about large sums of money. I wasn't involved in the company's finances. But you were a major investor," he looked at her over his glasses, "and technically a co-owner. What does that mean? It means you're jointly and severally liable for the company's debts, including unpaid taxes." The ground went out from under his feet. It appeared that Aaron hadn't just stolen her money, he'd left her with a multi-million-dollar debt to the state. After the tax collector left, she called Marcus. The old lawyer listened to her in silence, then sighed heavily. "Come over. We need to have a serious talk." His office smelled of leather and old books. Marcus pulled a puffy folder from the safe. "Your father foresaw something like this. He left instructions for this eventuality." "What kind of instructions?" "On asset recovery." He opened the folder. Robert was a very careful man. He created an elaborate system to protect his inheritance, a system that even Aaron didn't know about. "But why did you keep quiet?" "Because your father gave me his word to use it only as a last resort, when all other avenues are closed." He spread the documents out on the table. "Look, some of the assets were set up through a trust. The money Aaron received is just the tip of the iceberg. I don't understand. The bulk of the inheritance is still protected, but in order to access it, certain conditions must be met." "Like what?" Marcus pulled out an envelope with a notary seal. "Your father left one last letter. I think it's time you read it." With trembling hands, she opened the envelope. Her father's handwriting, so familiar and dear, danced before her eyes. "My dear Amelia, if you are reading this letter, it means that what I feared has happened. Someone has tried to take away not only your money, but your faith in people. I know how painful it is. I've been through it myself. But remember, the most important legacy I left you is not money or paintings. It's the ability to see the truth behind the facade, and the ability to fight for justice." Father's letter ended with an unusual postscript. "In the basement of the gallery behind the painting woman at the broken mirror, there is a safe. You know the code, the date of your first visit to the Louvre." Amelia reread these lines several times. A memory surfaced at once. She had turned 12. Her father had taken her to Paris for the first time. It was there, looking at the Mona Lisa, that she decided to connect her life with art. She and Marcus went to the gallery immediately. The painting hung where she had last seen it, a dark canvas with a woman holding a shard of mirror. Pulling it off the wall, they discovered a small safe, cleverly disguised as an air vent. Her fingers trembled as she typed in the numbers. The mechanism clicked and the door opened smoothly. Inside lay a leather folder and a flash drive. "Your father was a very prudent man." Marcus carefully pulled out the contents of the safe. "He knew he might need this one day." The folder contained documents proving the existence of a secret trust fund. The bulk of Robert Hastings' fortune was safely hidden from prying eyes. Aaron only had access to the tip of the iceberg. "But why didn't my father tell me about this before?" "Because he knew. You would have told your husband." Marcus removed his glasses, wiping them with a handkerchief. "Robert wanted to protect you from yourself." The flash drive contained files with a detailed financial investigation. Her father didn't just suspect. He knew Aaron would one day betray his daughter. A year before his death, he'd hired private investigators who'd compiled a dossier on his future son-in-law. "It's all here." Marcus looked through the files on his laptop. His bankruptcy history, shell companies, cheating partners, even a list of mistresses. Looks like Rachel isn't the first. Amelia stared at the screen, but what she saw wasn't numbers and facts. She saw years of her blindness. How could she not see the obvious? The alarm bells had been ringing from the beginning. Unexplained absences, strange phone conversations, sudden mood swings. What am I supposed to do now? Sleep for starters. Marcus closed the laptop. And then tomorrow we'll start on the plan. What plan? The one your father left behind. He pulled another envelope from the folder. Here are detailed instructions. Robert has thought of every detail. The plan turned out to be complex and multi-step. The first step was to regain control of the company's assets. The secret trust fund provided the necessary resources, but care had to be taken. Aaron thinks he's won. Marcus spread the documents out on the table. But he doesn't know the main thing. Your father set the perfect trap for him. Over the next week, they methodically prepared the ground. Marcus contacted the IRS, providing evidence that Amelia herself was a victim of fraud. At the same time, they began searching for Aaron's former partners, people he had defrauded in the past. The first to respond was James Porter. The programmer agreed to meet in a small cafe on the outskirts of the city. I still have copies of all the documents. He tapped his fingers nervously on the table. Correspondence, technical assignments, fake reports. Aaron was so self-righteous he didn't even bother to protect the data. Why did you decide to help? Because he destroyed my reputation. James chuckled bitterly. After I was fired from the company, I was blacklisted. No one wants to mess with a programmer who leaked confidential information. Next up was Sarah Mitchell, the former CFO of Aaron's first company. She brought a whole box of documents. I've waited 3 years for this moment. Her eyes burned with grim satisfaction. He ruined my life, made me take the blame for his machinations. Now it's my turn to tell the truth. Gradually, the picture became clearer and clearer. Aaron had been building and destroying companies for years using the same scheme. Attract investors with big promises, withdraw money through shell companies, and then disappear, leaving others to deal with the consequences. He's got a weak spot, Marcus observed, reviewing the witness statements. He's pathologically afraid of public humiliation. All of his scams have been based on creating the image of a successful businessman. Amelia remembered how her husband reacted to the slightest criticism. He would literally shake with anger when someone questioned his competence. So this is where we strike. She looked at Aaron's picture from another business conference. Publicly, painfully, and irreversibly. Elizabeth suggested using connections in the art world. A lot of our clients are influential people. They can help spread the word in the right circles. The plan began to take shape. Every evening they gathered at the gallery discussing the details. Marcus coordinated the legal side. Elizabeth handled public relations. James provided technical support. We have to act flawlessly, Marcus emphasized. No amateurishness, just facts, documents, and testimony. One evening, alone in the gallery, Amelia went up to the second floor. Here hung her favorite painting, Judith with the Head of Holofernes. Her father had bought it at an auction in Rome, paying a fortune for a 17th century work by an unknown artist. Revenge is a dish to be served wisely, he said at the time. Judith won not by force, but by strategy. Looking at the determined face of the biblical heroine, Amelia felt confident for the first time in a long time. She was no longer that naive girl who blindly trusted beautiful words. She was different, stronger, smarter, more cautious. Her phone vibrated, a message from an unknown number. I know where Aaron is now, and I'm ready to help. Meet me? Signed, Christina M. It was a name she'd seen on a list of her husband's ex-lovers. The Bluebird Cafe was in the old part of Grand Rapids, a small place with worn leather couches and faded mirrors on the walls. Christina Morgan was 20 minutes late for her appointment. A tall blonde in an expensive but old-fashioned suit, she looked like she'd stepped off the pages of a fashion magazine from 10 years ago. Sorry for the delay. She took a seat across from Amelia, placing a weighty folder on the table. Traffic. You said you knew where Aaron was. And not only that, Christina pulled pictures out of the folder. I know where your money went. The pictures were taken in the Cayman Islands, Aaron and Rachel on the beach, at a restaurant outside a bank. The last photo showed them kissing in front of a luxury villa. When were these pictures taken? A week ago. I hired a private investigator as soon as I heard about his new scam. Why? Christina grinned bitterly. Because I was in your shoes 3 years ago. Only the amounts were smaller and the scheme was simpler. Christina's story was painfully familiar. A successful business, an unexpected meeting with a charismatic financier, beautiful promises. And then, betrayal, stolen money, broken dreams. He's not just a thief. Christina twirled a cup of cold coffee in her hands. He's a collector. He enjoys the process of destruction, seeing a successful, confident woman turn into a shadow. Why did you decide to help? Because it's time to stop him, and because I have something you might need. New documents emerged from the folder. Bank statements, copies of contracts, detailed descriptions of money withdrawal schemes. Christina worked in banking and was able to track the flow of funds. Most of the money is still in the accounts. He didn't have time to hide them. He's too confident. In the evening, Amelia showed the documents to Marcus. The old lawyer studied the papers for a long time, making notes in a notebook. This changes the case. He took off his glasses. With this evidence, not only can we get the money back, but we can get a criminal prosecution. I don't want him arrested, Amelia shook her head. I want him to feel what I felt: helplessness, humiliation, despair. The next day, they convened a war council. James Porter brought the results of a technical analysis. Almost all of the company's funds were being withdrawn through 3 shell companies. A classic laundering scheme, he explained. But Aaron made the mistake of using the same passwords for all the accounts. Sarah Mitchell, after examining Christina's documents, found a link between the old and new scams. He doesn't change his MO. Same offshore, same banks, even the same shell directors. The plan began to take shape. The first step was to gain access to Aaron's email account. James managed that in a matter of hours. The emails confirmed their worst suspicions. The new scam had been in preparation for a long time, even before the wedding. He was looking for a rich heiress. Christina looked through the correspondence. You weren't first on the list, but you were the most suitable, young, trusting, with relationship problems with her mother. Elizabeth set about gathering information on Aaron's business associates. Many of them turned out to be the same kind of scammers, a small network of financial con artists plowing through the Midwest. They support each other, she explained. They provide bogus references, share contacts, help cover their tracks. Marcus suggested using this information. If we can break his connections in the business world, he'll be alone, and a lone shark doesn't last long. The next step was to prepare the press documents. Each accusation had to be supported by hard evidence. James set up a secure server to store the information. Sarah prepared financial reports. Christina provided bank records. One problem remains, Marcus remarked. We need a catalyst, an event that will set the whole mechanism in motion. I have an idea, Elizabeth smiled. The company is giving a big presentation to investors in a month. Aaron is sure to show up. He won't miss a chance to show off in front of the audience. Perfect timing, Amelia agreed. But how do we lure him in? He must understand the risks. He'll come back, Christina said confidently, because narcissists can't resist the temptation to show their former victims how well they've settled. The Grand Plaza Hotel glowed with lights reflected in the glass walls. Limousines and expensive cars lined the entrance, dropping off guests in evening attire. The presentation of the new Bruno Tech Solutions project attracted the attention of the entire Grand Rapids business community. Amelia parked her Jaguar in the underground parking garage. A black Chanel dress, her father's last gift to her, emphasized her figure. No ostentatious luxury, just impeccable taste and understated elegance. "Everyone in position," James's voice in the tiny earpiece sounded calm. "Cameras are up and running. Communications are in place. Sarah is monitoring the financial terminals." She was met in the lobby by Elizabeth, dressed in her role as a socialite journalist. "He's here," she whispered as she walked past. "In the main hall, showing off for the investors." Aaron did indeed shine in the spotlight. Impeccable tuxedo, confident smile, polished gestures. Next to him, like a faithful shadow, stood Rachel in a revealing red dress. "Artificial intelligence is the future of the financial sector," his voice boomed through the room. "Our algorithms are capable of predicting market behavior with 90% accuracy." Amelia's lips twitched in a slight smile. James had already uploaded the actual test data to the hotel's system, a complete failure of all the claimed technologies. The first to notice her was Rachel. Her face contorted for a moment, but she quickly restored a professional smile. Leaning toward Aaron, she whispered something. He turned around, and for a split second his mask of self-assurance cracked. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus stepped up to the small stage. "Before we continue with the presentation, I have an important announcement to make." Charts and tables appeared on huge screens, the company's actual financials. Red lines of falling stock values, withdrawal reports, fictitious contracts. "This is a provocation." Aaron tried to seize the initiative. "A competitor's shenanigans." "Really?" Amelia stepped forward. Her voice, amplified by the microphone, echoed around the room. "Then explain to the audience where the $4 million investment went." A murmur went up in the hall. Investors glanced around, pulling out their phones, checking the data. "It's a personal score," shouted Aaron. "My ex-wife is trying to get revenge for the divorce." "Personal scores?" New documents appeared on the screens. "Why don't you tell me about accounts in the Cayman Islands, or about the shell companies, or about your previous scams?" Christina rose from her seat. 3 years ago you pulled off the exact same scheme in Chicago, stole $2 million and disappeared." "Lies." But his voice shook. Sarah Mitchell turned on her microphone. "And in Detroit? Bankrupted the company, left the employees without a paycheck, and set me up for a criminal case." Rachel tried to move stealthily toward the exit, but her path was blocked by security. "Shall I show those present your personal photographs?" Amelia held up a folder. "Or tell us how you've been planning this scam since before we were even married?" The hall buzzed. Journalists invited by Elizabeth were scribbling in their notebooks. Cameras were broadcasting what was happening live. "You—" Aaron took a step toward Amelia, but was stopped by his bodyguards. "You wouldn't dare." "Already dared," she smiled. "Check your accounts, right now." He pulled out his cell phone. His face turned pale. All the accounts were blocked. The screen showed a notice from the IRS that an investigation had been launched. "Bitch!" He rushed toward her but was intercepted by security. "Take him away," Marcus said calmly. "The police are on their way." Rachel sobbed in the corner, smearing expensive makeup. "I didn't know anything. He made me." "Really?" Amelia held out a photograph to her. "And this is you signing the paperwork to open offshore accounts. The date is a month before our divorce." An hour later, the hotel lobby was filled with police officers and FBI agents. Aaron and Rachel were led away in handcuffs. Reporters surrounded Amelia, pelting her with questions. "No comment," Marcus cut her off, leading her toward the exit. "All the material is in the press release." In the car, she finally allowed herself to relax. The tension of the last few weeks was receding, replaced by a strange desolation. "What now?" she asked, looking out at the nighttime city. Now, Marcus smiled. Now the real work begins. Asset recovery, lawsuits, business reorganization. And the revenge is complete? No, he shook his head. It's only the beginning. Your father left a few more surprises for those trying to profit from other people's trust. The headlines were abuzz with buzz phrases. Tech startup turns out to be a pyramid scheme. Recidivist fraudster apprehended in Grand Rapids. Art empire heiress exposes criminal scheme. Amelia perused the news over a cup of morning coffee in the empty gallery. You need to make a press statement. Elizabeth placed a folder of press inquiries in front of her. They won't back off. Let Marcus do the talking. Amelia pushed the folder away. I have other plans. In the IRS office, Agent Chase was waiting for her. His desk was piled with documents from Bruno Tech Solutions. Impressive work, he pointed to a chair, especially the financial part. Have you been planning this for a long time? Not me, she sat down. My father. He envisioned something like this. Smart man. Chase pulled out a new folder. We ran a check on all of your husband's connections. It turned up a whole network of similar scammers. They've been scamming investors all over the Midwest for years. Photos appeared on the table. Familiar faces from Aaron's business meetings. Successful businessmen, respected members of society. All links in the same criminal chain. What's going to happen to them? The investigation is just beginning, the agent smiled. But your materials have given us an excellent starting point. She ran into Rachel in the hallway. Her husband's former mistress looked a decade older. The prison robe and lack of makeup had erased the glossy facade. Amelia, Rachel jerked toward her. Please talk to the prosecutor. I'll tell you everything, explain everything. The convoyeur pushed her back, but she continued to scream, I was a victim too. He used me. As one uses those who long to be used themselves, Amelia said quietly as she passed. In the evening, their small staff gathered in the gallery. James unfolded a financial flow chart on the screen, the result of weeks of work. Most of the money has been blocked, he pointed to the accounts, but about $1 million disappeared irretrievably. Never mind, Amelia poured the wine into glasses. Money was never the main goal. What was the main thing? Christina asked. Justice, and a lesson for those who think they can ruin other people's lives with impunity. Sarah Mitchell raised her glass to justice and to unexpected alliances. They had indeed become a strange but cohesive team. Each found something different in this story. James an opportunity to rebuild his reputation, Sarah revenge for past humiliations, Christina a way to rid herself of the ghosts of the past. What are you going to do next? Elizabeth took a seat next to her friend. Restore the gallery. Father created more than just a business here. This was his legacy, his message to the world. And you'll continue his work? In my own way. Amelia walked over to a painting of a woman at a broken mirror. Each shard reflects a part of the truth. You just have to learn to look at it from the right angle. Marcus showed up later with more paperwork. The DA's office is willing to make a deal. Aaron will plead guilty in exchange for a reduced sentence. He won't go for that, Amelia said confidently. His ego won't allow him to publicly admit defeat. Already on it, the lawyer put the confession on the table. Rachel gave an exhaustive statement first. He realized he had lost. The documents contained details of all the scams, names, dates, amounts, the story of years of deception written in her ex-husband's hand. You know what's most ironic? Marcus took off his glasses. He really could have been a successful businessman. He had connections, charisma, persuasive skills, but he took the easy way out. There are no easy paths, Amelia closed the folder. There are only right and wrong decisions. At night, she sat in her father's study for a long time, poring over old photographs. Here he was teaching her the difference between originals and copies. Here he explains the principles of restoration. Here he talks about the importance of detail. Art teaches us to see the truth, his voice echoed in the memory. But the most difficult art is the ability to live with dignity. The next morning, she began sorting through Aaron's belongings left in the house. Each item held a story of their life together. She could see now how much falsity there was in those stories. Aaron's trial lasted 3 weeks. Amelia had attended every session, watching his carefully constructed image of a successful businessman crumble. His expensive suits were replaced by prison robes, his confident smile by the haggard look of a man who had lost everything. The prosecutor methodically presented evidence: bank statements, forged contracts, witness statements. Each day brought new details of the fraudulent scheme, each session revealing new facets of the deception. The defendant, Aaron Bruno, is sentenced to 8 years imprisonment with confiscation of property. The judge's voice echoed around the room. As Amelia exited the courthouse, she ran into Aaron's mother, an older woman with an aristocratic posture and bitter disappointment in her gaze. Satisfied. There was a tired anger in her voice. Ruin my boy's life? He ruined his own life, Amelia paused. And not just his own. He could have fixed it. Give the money back. Start over. No, Amelia shook her head. He would have continued to find new victims. People like that don't change. Elizabeth and Marcus were waiting for her in the gallery. On the table lay the business reorganization documents. It was time to revive her father's legacy. We found Robert's latest surprise. Marcus pulled an envelope from his briefcase. It's a power of attorney to manage a secret investment fund. He set it up a month before he died. The envelope contained not only legal documents, but also a letter, his father's last message. My dear Amelia, if you are reading these lines, it means you have passed the test and become stronger. You are now ready not only to keep your art, but to use it to protect those in need. What does that mean? She looked up at Marcus. Your father set up a foundation to help victims of financial fraud, the lawyer smiled. He wanted you to head it up. Elizabeth spread out the plans for the gallery renovation on the table. We can combine art and social mission. Create a space where beauty will serve justice. In the evening, alone, Amelia went up to her father's favorite room. The paintings on the walls held stories. Now she saw them as having not only artistic value, but deep symbolism. Woman at the broken mirror took on new meaning. Each shard reflected a piece of truth that needed to be put back together. Judith with the head of Holofernes told not about revenge, but about the triumph of justice. A phone call interrupted her musings. Christine, there are new victims. Her voice sounded agitated. Another scammer, similar scheme. People need help. Let them come. Amelia looked at the paintings. We're ready. James and Sarah agreed to join the new project. Their experience and knowledge was invaluable in fighting financial crime. It's more than just a foundation, Marcus explained at the first team meeting. It's a protection and support system. We will not only help victims but also prevent new crimes. The gallery was being transformed. One wing housed an education center where financial literacy seminars were held. In another, a legal clinic for fraud victims. Your father would be proud of you, Elizabeth said as she watched the changes. He taught me the most important thing. Amelia ran her hand over the picture frame. Art is more than beauty. It's a tool for learning the truth. The foundation's first visitors came tentatively, ashamed of their gullibility. They told similar stories, beautiful promises, manipulation, broken dreams. You are not alone, Amelia told them, and it's not your fault. We will help you get justice. Gradually, Amelia's story became a symbol of hope for other victims of financial crime. Journalists called her an advocate for the defrauded, but she didn't seek publicity. Rachel received a suspended sentence in exchange for cooperating with the investigation. One day she showed up at a gallery, slimmed down, no makeup and no designer clothes. "I want to help," her voice shook, "to make amends. I know all his accomplices, all the schemes." Amelia stared at her for a long moment, then nodded. "Start with the truth. Tell your story to others. Maybe it will keep someone else from making the same mistakes." On the anniversary of her father's death, Amelia found another note in his study, hidden in an old art history book. "Remember, daughter, beauty will only save the world when it serves the truth. Your task is to find a balance between the two." She stood at the window, looking out at the evening city. Somewhere out there, in a jail cell, sat the man who had tried to steal not only her money, but her faith in herself. He had lost, but his defeat was the beginning of something bigger. "We're starting a new project," she informed the team the next morning. "We're creating a database of financial fraudsters, so no one can hide behind pretty facades anymore.